Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to RLAfterShock, the longest-running independent podcast for everything that is Rocket League esports in the European scene. And a hell of a week that has gone by for us with leaks, signings, and all sorts of shenanigans. I'm the Eternal J. I'm joined by Digital Bacon for episode 64. My man, how was your weekend? I hope it was better than mine.
It was rather relaxed, if anything, because... yeah, like Sunday didn't get any work in the end and was able to do the viewing party, so that's quite nice. Saturday we kicked off the B-Stream action over on Rival for the Rival series, which was great fun, alongside Jar Jam and Iron League. And then, yeah, just got to chill out, relax. I started playing that Kingdom Come Deliverance because that was free on Epic Games. Thank you, Epic Games, for the free shit. I'm never buying a game in your service. But yeah... like it's just been great. It's just been a relaxing weekend of just chilling out. We come around, it's now Tuesday, and we get like recap everything. It's been a good weekend.
Mate, you just straight fucking dig the people that are like, you know, kind of running the game. You know, I don't know if you realize that. We got to take the memes because, like, the one thing I find quite funny is, like, I wouldn't ever buy a game in Epic Game Launcher just because the service is shit. But if they were to fix it, it'd be absolutely fine. Because realistically, like, what everyone has a go at Epic for, like, saying, oh, they're such a dodgy company of that. Everyone else fucking does as well, you know, like having a whole go about trying to like monopolize and pull, say, indie developers and exclusivities. That's not a bad thing at all. Like they're paying developers that more money than what Steam does. So how are they a worse, you know, company? I don't understand it. It's just like consumer bias, isn't it? Really? It's that thing that everyone has with with fucking streaming services. Yeah. Is that, you know, how everyone sort of branched out and created their own streaming service. Now you have to pay even more for content that you used to be able to get for like $5 a month on Netflix. And it's like, God. You know, they now that it's all like $5 a month for Netflix, $5 a month for Amazon, $5 a month for Disney, and it's like, well, now everyone's just saying fuck this, and they're all going back to making
it's worse in America, ain't it? Like where they have it for each of their cable companies. Like over in the UK, at least we're lucky, like to the point of you just Netflix, Amazon's included with your, like, you know, delivery thing, so that's fine. My dad owns Sky, and I just like nab his like the online code for that.
I thought you were implying your dad was Rupert Murdoch there. Like, holy shit.
My dad owns Sky. If you do not agree with me, you will be banned. Sorry about having to take away your package. No, not that meme. But I mean, like, he just has the Sky box, whatever. But that means I get Nick his Sky Go, I think it is, which is excellent because, like, sports, yo. It's like
you take that theory, and it's like everyone applies it to video games about the whole sort of you know, subscription model, and it's like, guys, this is two different marketplaces. It makes no fucking sense. You know, you're not paying for a subscription to Epic Games and Steam, so I don't understand where people get it from. I think it's just because everyone wants the convenience, and for some reason they don't like Fortnite. So, you know, it's a fucking weird thing, but. Yeah, glad to hear your weekend was better than mine, Bacon. Fucking hell. So, yeah.
Ooh, and I've got a new mocha pot, so I'm happy about that. Like
a new what? I don't know what that is.
A mocha pot. You make coffee. You know, a stovetop coffee maker.
Oh, mocha pot. Okay, right. I understand. Right. Well, fair enough. Yeah. Enough about coffee and Epic Games. Let's talk about some Rocket League. We spent 5 minutes in the first fucking bit of the podcast just chatting shit. I'm sure most of you are tuned out by now. But for those of you who are here for Rocket League, you now get the thing that you actually signed up and subscribed for. On today's show, Intel World Open has details at last. The rule book was leaked. An hour ago, as of us recording this show on the 25th. And we're going to go through some of the details on that. We haven't had a full chance to take a look at the whole thing due to various bits and pieces. But as well as that, we're also talking about Mousesports and how Lethamyr aired their sabotage attacks, signings across the entire of the Rival series in Europe, and all of the regular results and mailbag that you've come to expect on every single episode of RLAfterShock. Let's get into the news. So before we get into today's news section, probably should let you know that the information in regards to the Intel World Open was all sourced out of the leak rather than than the official announcement. This was because the episode was recorded prior to the announcement going live, and obviously this coming out the day after we recorded this. It's a little bit awkward with the timeline, so I probably should just let you know for further context as to where we got our information from. The Intel World Open rulebook has been leaked. I know that there was also some data mining stuff that released the dates and everything that was going on with the Intel World Open, but honestly, the easier to understand format is the rulebook, which I can verify as legit because it's ESL.gfx. It's an ESLGFX.net domain. For those of you who work with ESL, you'll know that this is the common sort of like, sharing, the common sort of like resource database for everything in regards to broadcastings, and adminning and everything sort of like in respect of like PDF documents and like images and everything. All of it's shared through ESLGFX.net. So that all those things are very easy to sort of find if you've ever worked with ESL. I have, so I know this. Therefore, I know that this is probably pretty fucking legit. And the rulebook is extensive, as you would hope a rulebook to be. It is something in the region of fucking like, 50, 60 pages and shit of everything that's going on. There are 8 sections split up into like a million different subsections of all the information you would need to run an Intel tournament, a Rocket League tournament. Again, we haven't had a chance to comb through everything, but we have got some of the more juicy details on our list, Bacon.
Yeah, we basically just cut the fat, trimmed it off, and give the people the big important info which they want to know, which, Jay, do you want to start rattling it off?
Yeah, we'll start with the thing that everyone wants to know most importantly is the fucking schedules, which we still have not been able to get a hold of as of the last, what has it been 3 months or so of us knowing about the Intel World Open?
Yeah, it's been way too long. And the fact that the rulebook comes out, people find it, like... I understand data mining, like from a website, because they upload some primarily, like, banners and that gets it set on the website in the background. But for this to come out, like the rulebook to come out first, either there better be an announcement tonight or at least before Friday. Otherwise, this looks super bad.
I don't know, man. I mean, knowing Psyonix, they'll probably just hold off onto it for ages. But again, shout out to Drama Alert and the guys who did the data mining to try and find this shit, because you guys have certainly given some more light to the stuff that we've been completely kept in the dark about. But anyway, so dates. 3.1.1, the schedule for the qualifiers. May 2nd and 3rd, we have qualifiers for Japan, Africa, Asia, mainland, Middle East, and Latin America. On May 9th to 10th, we have qualifiers for Australia, Brazil, China, OC, Asia, Maritime. And May 16th and 17th is the qualifiers for Canada, France, Germany, UK, US, and the rest of EU. May 23rd and 24th for the backup reserve weekend in case any of these dates and weekends overlap or run over or anything like that. So, good to see precautions being taken, especially after the fucking, blunder of the RLCS earlier this season, with the servers going down. So if the servers go down on May 2nd, it'll be good. Everything will be fine. And as for the LAN section 4.19, the Katowice qualifiers, the LAN in Katowice will be going down from the 11th through the 14th of June, and in Tokyo, the 22nd to the 24th of July. So there you go. Mark those dates in your calendars. That is when all the shit is going down. That is when you will be able to catch all the action of the Intel World Open here. Bacon, give me some thoughts.
Well, straight away, Katowice qualifiers are the week before the Street Fighter stuff. So if you guys were wanting to go and see both, you'll have to, do 2 weekends in a row. I doubt that's a problem, and really it makes sense logistically. Tokyo, the 22nd to the 24th will be shared with the Street Fighter stuff. For me, the interesting thing is we haven't seen a confirmation for this, because Japan, we know, will have a instant invite to the finals. Looking at how the structure is, there'll be 7 spots throughout the Katowice qualifiers. There is, if I am correct in thinking, I'm going to quickly pull it on up, but 4 in the upper bracket and 3 in the lower bracket. I'm literally just cutting to that now, so I can confirm it is 4 in the single elimination first group, the first stage, and then there's a double elimination second stage with 3 teams going from that, and they've shown out all the money and all of that sort of jazz there, which is lovely to see that we already know the structure and the prize pool distribution, Jay, which is awesome. And like I said, we might not get to see Japan at Katowice, because why would they be there? Like, that you're qualifying to requalify, like, you've already got a spot. I doubt they'll be there.
I don't know how the layout of this is going to work. To be honest, we haven't been seeing. Given how there haven't been, I didn't. Oh, at least as from our little data mining and our little research, we didn't see anything specific about any of the slot alignments for the qualifiers. Because obviously, all these qualifiers that we mentioned for each of the different regions, they're all online. The only offline parts are Katowice in Tokyo. So. I'm not sure if the Japan qualifier, for example, gives them a direct spot to Tokyo. I'm not sure if all those online qualifiers go to Katowice, which then goes to Tokyo. I'm not sure how many slots go to EU or NA or all these other things, especially considering that there are certain countries that get their own qualifiers. Like, there is an EU general qualifier, but then you've also got qualifiers for France, Germany, and the UK individually. So like the slot alignment and the slot setup is not 100% sort of like defined by any stretch of the imagination. So there's still a few questions, and I'm sure we'll have like a bit more of a more in detail breakdown later down the road. I think once we have a bit of time to sit down and digest this. Again, this was leaked to us an hour ago, so we don't have and we don't have a lot of time to sort of sit down and sort of take our time with this podcast because me and Bacon have a studio's job tonight.
Yeah, go get that done.
The other interesting section I wanted to highlight was 6.1.3. This is about game-specific rules for Rocket League, and 6.1 is before the match. 6.1.3 is about battle car selection. The particular quote I want to highlight: licensed cars, e.g. number 16 Batmobile, as well as licensed customizations, will not be allowed during the Intel World Open during any Intel World Open matches, both offline and online matches, which indicates to me that DLC cars will not be allowed, Bacon.
That will be a little bit akin to, was it Universal Open or was it E-League? Can't remember, way back in the day. I think it was E-League. There's got to be some sort of licensing issue there where naturally it seems like a little bit of an awkward area. For most people, this isn't a problem. Like, you'll only see the Batmobile being a problem for some players, but most of the guys have moved over the Dominus, and it's not really out there at the moment. And if I am correct in thinking, the Batmobile now shares a hitbox with the Breakout. Don't quote me on that. I think it might be separate. Who knows? But yeah, the only player this would really affect is Flakes, it seems, at the moment, Jay.
Yeah, I know, right? I think they added that clause just to fuck him up. I think that's all it was.
Yeah, there's someone from ESL just that randomly hates Flakes is just there whilst writing up the rulebook going, fuck this kid. No Ghostbusters for you, no DeLoreans, fuck you. And whatever. Realistically, for everyone else, it doesn't mean anything, does it,
Yeah, no, I am... in the end of the day, like, most people are going to be using the Octane and the Dominus, and those, and unless I'm mistaken, the Dominus is not a DLC car. The Batmobile was sort of gone out of fashion anyway. I don't see many Batmobiles, so... I don't see any reason why this should affect many people other than, again, as you mentioned, Flakes. You also wanted to highlight section 3.1.2, if I can quickly find that on the document. I think the problem with I think the problem with fucking all of the all of the details in this is that obviously it's a big fucking document. You have to sort of like scroll through and find everything. But the format, as you mentioned, rounds with more than 32 teams in the upper bracket are best of 3. Rounds with 32 or fewer teams in the upper bracket are best of 5. Rounds with more than 16 teams in the loser bracket will be best of 3, and rounds with 16 teams or fewer in the losers bracket will be best of 5. The grand finals is the team coming from the upper bracket will have a 1-map advantage as opposed to a bracket reset, which I have to say is a little bit off kilter for a double elimination tournament, Bacon.
Yeah, this is a little bit odd. So this seems like they're just filling a time slot, isn't it? There's not a massive amount of, I'm going to say tournament, like, integrity, purely because we know in Rocket League that best of 3 can really kill teams where it's just really hard to get going. Some teams can just not handle it. In this also you can use as an excuse because some regions might not have many teams show up. I expect all regions to have more than 32 teams. So I'd imagine this is just going to be best of 3s, blowouts all the way through. But how do you feel about that as well, Jay? Because for me, they're best of 3s when it's waiting up to be the biggest tournament outside of RLCS. I feel a little bit iffy. Like, I can understand the reasoning, but Rocket League's quick as it is, it does not need to be cut down to best of 3s, I think.
I mean, it depends really, because it's like, look, I've seen Counter-Strike open tournaments, and it's like the earlier rounds do not fucking matter, because if you get the seeding right, and for the most part the seeding should be okay, those matches should be easily decided, and it's like at that point it's just to weed out the individuals. I agree that in an ideal world we should have best of fives all the way. I don't think it's too much of a problem if a tournament organizer decides to go with the whole if a tournament organizer decides to go with best of threes in the early rounds. Yeah, that's the point. You know, just like get it over and done with, get it out of the way. It can lead to some upsets, which I think can be a little bit shitty. But all in all, I don't think there'll be a massive sort of issue, considering it's double elimination bracket and everything. And all the right teams should make their way in. If they don't, then well, you can have caveat points. I agree with you in part, Bacon. But I also sort of like see the other side of the coin, where best of threes just kind of to run through everything is it just makes a bit more sense to me from a logistical standpoint. Another little quote that I wanted to put down was 6.5 coaching. You're going to get pissed at this one. Coaches are not allowed at the Intel World Open offline events.
Why?
Yeah, considering what DreamHack did, how amazing having coaches on stage was, considering the RLCS adopted it for themselves, this seems like a step backwards for the Rocket League scene, Bacon.
Yeah, and I'm just intrigued as to the reason, because it just says coaches are not allowed at the Intel World Open offline events. Now, what does that mean? Like, I'm assuming that just means not on the stage. Now, is this because of the qualification to LAN? You would assume that would mean them your expense, like your trip to LAN is paid for by the tournament organizer. Is this just them to cut out on expenses and that sort of way there? Because I could understand that. And then that just means, and this is them just following through, is it them trying to say, well, these aren't exactly teams, they're countries, so they don't need coaches, like it's not the same sort of caliber. It just seems very odd, because I definitely know a lot of teams will be wanting to run coaches, especially since you'll have a lot of teams where, you know, you've got a lot of players that would be coaching national sides, or you've even got teams like Renault Vitality who might have a full-time coach. I don't know if they've got a coach currently or a manager that already has a French team, so would be wanting them to go anyway, because we've seen a lot of the RLCS and definitely a lot of sponsors trying to think about RLRS and RLCS teams and how they can mold them into national sides for this event. It just seems very odd.
Yeah, no, it's
wide limit.
Yeah, I think that's the key word there. Wide limit more than anything else. I'm not sure if this is an ESL idea or a Psyonix idea. I don't think it would be ESL's sort of like ruling, based on the fact that, you know, ESL do this all the time for Counter-Strike and League of Legends and Dota 2 and whatever fucking tournament they have. They always appeal to the standards of the scene, and in most scenes, you know, having a coach in the backlines is always a good idea. And it seems like to me that ESL just generally have like a coaching rule that favors that. So I'm not sure who to blame in this one. At the end of the day, the details are published by ESL, so I guess we kind of have to put it on ESL. But, you know, I digress on that one, because at the end of the day, we don't really know who made that call. The final the bit that I wanted to talk about was 2.6, which is my personal, which is obviously our personal remit because we're casters. It's about match broadcasting. 2.6.1 rights. All broadcasting rights for Intel World Open are owned by ESL Gaming GmbH, which of course is the ESL Gaming Limited company, basically. This includes, but is not limited to, IRC bots, shoutcast streams, video streams, e.g. POV streams, replays, demos, or TV broadcasts. 2.6.2, ESL Gaming has the right to award broadcasting rights for one or multiple matches to a third party or the participants themselves. In such cases, the broadcasts must have been arranged with a head admin before the start of the match. For necessary contacts, please look at 1.7.1, blah, 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 blah. And make sure any broadcast details have been approved before the match in question starts. Actually, let's have a look if the 1.7.1 thing has any details that we can use to contact people. Yeah, I see that. So there are a couple of contact people that you can talk to. So I'm not going to go hit those guys up, Bacon, and we're going to go see if we can cast some fucking online Rocket League, bro.
Well, yeah, of course. Like, naturally, we're going to be wanting to get on that shit. But again, We don't
I should
know
also, by
who's
the way, I should also say that I'm
mainstream
encouraging this for other streamers and casters to get involved as well, because like there's going to be a lot of matches over those weekends, so there's a lot of shit going on.
Same as DreamHack, that's how you got to think of it, ain't it?
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. So if you want to get involved in casting, if you want to give it a shout, then fucking the contact details are in 1.7.1. And of course, you just saw you just heard the rules themselves. They can waive those at any point for any one broadcast. So try to see if you can get your foot in the door. We certainly will. And I'm gonna slide in my ESL contacts, see if they can sort me out with some good shit. So that is the Intel World Open rulebook leaked earlier today. If you want to take a look at it yourself, then you can go to eslgfx.net/media/lo/Intel World Open rulebook with all those opening words being capitalized .pdf, and you can take a look for yourself. I'm sure there'll be a link on the subreddit somewhere as well. But let's move on and talk about some drama. Some drama, Bacon. We all love drama, don't we? Lethamir came out on Twitter and he was talking about some little bastards who are fucking with the Mousesports squad. He says on Twitter, quote, "Whoever invites Scrub Killa to a group Steam chat during our matches and says you're going to lose and tabs him out of the game, you are the absolute worst kind of person. Lucky we didn't get scored on. What sucks is that you can't see who did it if they leave the chat fast enough," which is absolutely true. This has been a known issue for a while. I've got two sides of the coin of this one, Bacon. The first one is obviously it should be a known element for all these players, and you know they should have set themselves to offline to ensure that this does not happen. The other side of the coin, though, is fuck the guys who did this for obvious reasons. Okay, like you're a little bit sad if you're gonna go ahead and fucking start messing with pro players in the middle of matches. Like you're a bit of a piece of shit.
Yeah, essentially. Scrub your doofus, make sure you're in offline mode. Like that's pretty standard. But yeah, the big one is, what the fuck is wrong with you just to go with mess with someone's career? That is literally trying to fuck someone's job up. No one does that. You're a scum of the earth piece of shit.
Wow, I thought I was the one who was going to get fucking like really angry with that shit, man.
I don't get why people do that. It's like when people DDoS and all of that sort of shit. What the fuck is wrong with you? Are you that sad a person?
I mean, yeah, to be honest, it's a good question. I mean, it kind of reminds me of the Rival Series broadcast where I got all those DMs about my fucking microphone fucking up. And it's like, you know, just kind of throwing all of us off because you got messages as well, like you're 8 people DMing you on Discord. And it's like, guys, you realize we're in the middle of a broadcast and everything like that. It's the same thing with these guys. They're in the middle of a match. Why would you do that? It's like, you know, there's a difference between trolling for fun and literally fucking with people's careers. And in the case of Scrub Killa, he is a professional player. Like he's on a professional salary. Like the idea that he should be that he should be having to deal with this in the middle of a game. Sure, he should have set himself to offline, but like, fuck me. Like, do you not have anything better to do with your lives, guys? Like, you know, this is just really fucking bullshit. Like, just have some fun with it, and you know, enjoy the matches for what they are, rather than trying to mess with outcomes. And I have got a couple of concerns in regards to validity of results as a result of this, because then it comes into question some of the situations we've seen in the past. Like, do you remember when what was it? Remember when Ronicky had that like weird controller disconnect issue and he just missed the entire kickoff? Or was it last season? I think it was. Was it last season? I think it must have been. It must have been actually. It's only been a couple of weeks. But like seeing stuff like that, you know, it's like, you know, when you see results like that and issues with people in the back line, the defensive fucking up, it's like from that point you start to see a lot of like issues in those mistakes sort of getting opened up in the in those matches, and it's like, well, how many of these are people messing with other players, and how many people are motivated with other sort of like outside means? I'm not trying to like, you know, imply match fixing or anything, but we've seen a lot more people take interest in Rocket League, and I have seen more bookies start to put odds up for Rocket League matches.
Yeah, and again, those odds up for Rocket League matches technically aren't legal at all because they're not authorized, because we're in a weird world with esports where
it's a grey market. I don't think you need to authorize those things. Like Riot Games do not support any do not support gambling sponsors in their like franchise teams, but at the same time, you can go to Unicorn, you can go to Betway, you can go to all these places and still find odds for League of Legends matches. So I'm not sure if there's anything that's like legally enforceable per se, but you know, they exist. You know, all you have to do is just take a look around at some of the common sort of like bookies, and you'll find loads of odds for loads of different teams and loads of different matches, especially if they're RLCS caliber. You know, like Mousesports certainly have odds on their games. I can tell you that basically for easy.
with that area, it seems a bit more like the game developers have the opportunity and they can shut people completely down. But when it comes down to a lot of the stuff, it's more just saying that they've got no involvement, they can wipe their hands, they have no inclusion with it. Because definitely with stuff like League of Legends, we know with CS for sure, gambling money, of course, is a big pull to a lot of people to get involved within the esport. But we're going off on a bit of a tangent, aren't we? With the whole
at the end of the day, I think the bottom line is fuck the guy who did this.
Yeah.
But players also should start covering their own asses, because this becomes a problem, and then suddenly everything comes into question.
It's just to have not a Smurf account, but a second account, which these players literally only use for RLCS. Like Psyonix,
I'm not sure how that messes with the rule book though for Psyonix. I mean, it's a sacrifice that I'd be willing to take. But even then, you also have like a second Smurf account, and suddenly all your cosmetics are gone, and you get some real fuckery with the way that things work. And obviously, we've seen like guys like Flakes complaining about him not being able to access his cosmetics online. Well, that will also be the case for online matches. So. It's a very complicated little issue. I'm not sure whether or not that's a viable sort of thing. But, the bottom line is, don't be a dick, is what I'm trying to say.
But if we were to lock those players down, we'd only give them the cosmetics for their esports items. So the teams would have to use their own team decals instead of fucking off with whatever bejazzled shit that they're using. Diva, I think I saw last time, had that like really sparkly one. It throws me off so much looking at broadcast. But like using their own, like the Vitality decal, which Vitality are actually a good excuse. They use theirs. But the other teams like that just don't run it. It feels very odd and very unprofessional in that sort of sense. I don't know. I'm weird in that regard. Where I don't know.
I prefer the variety, but again, we're going on fucking tangents. So let's just move on. Obviously, we've had some interesting news, some bad news, and some good news, I think, to close out the news section. Solary picking up the block side, a very early signing in this one. I'm not a fan of teams that make signings and teams that have just qualify for tournaments like the RLRS. I feel like it's a little bit of a I don't know, just it feels like it's not quite a good investment to me. I mean, for me personally, if I was a team owner, I wouldn't be looking at some of these teams. I'd wait to see whether or not they have longevity in the space. And certainly with Solary, they've got like a decent pickup in terms of the block side, but right now they're kind of low on the league table, so it's not the best of starts for them. So. Mm-hmm. I have my doubts about whether or not Solary made a good business move. That's still yet to be seen. But seeing another RLRS team get picked up, fucking brilliant,
But Jay, the one thing here is Solary are very heavy on the French influence. Like they really only pick up like French players or French teams. When we were doing the RLRS B stream over on Rival had about 3,000 viewers. Solary were doing like a viewing party of us, and they had about 4,000. So,
fucking hell.
Yeah, that just shows. Definitely there is a big French back in there. It's a bit like, if there is anything ever going on with Rocket Baguette, they'll always absolutely knock anyone else out of the water. Like with DreamHack qualifiers, for example, last season, just because the French community fucking love it. And who knows? I think it's a good pickup. If they're only there for the one season, so be it. But I would hope Solary would stick around longer, because those lads on Block or now Solary anyway have got tons of potential.
We'll see whether they can capitalize on this potential. Again, we'll do our RLRS breakdown at the end of the show, as well as the awkward Turtles being picked up by Notorious Legion. A bit more comfortable with this one, considering NL are, very long-time supporters of Rocket League. Mm-hmm. I don't think we have many more to add to other than my previous statements about Solary picking up Block. So I guess we'll just move on from our news section. There you go. That's all the news broken down for you. A lot of stuff going forward to keep your eyes on, especially with that Intel World Open stuff. So we'll be bringing you all those updates as time rolls on for RLAfterShock. And we'll move on to our fan contribution part of the show, the Mailbag segment, which of course you can get involved in if you join the Discord via the descriptions in via the links in the show notes and video descriptions of every single episode of the podcast. You can join the Discord, get involved with the Mailbag segment where you can ask us some questions. We have two coming in from Freecant, Mr. Clyde Claymores himself. He asks, first, what do you think of players that make it straight into the RLCS without playing an RLRS qualifiers or RLRS first? Why are they so special and how do they get known? Example, Astral, Fruity, First Killer, etc. I think this is a you question, Bacon. Talk to me.
So for those players in particular, it was all 6-mans. Not incredibly short on First Killer, but First Killer's been around for ages within the community scene. His problem was just not old enough for RLCS. Similar to how Yukio, back in the day was 6-mans as well, got picked up for it. How do we feel about that though, Jay, is the bigger question, because clearly it's because they can see the value and know that they're such good players. But if we've ever seen them before, like the first season always feels a little bit shaky. I feel like Fruity actually did the best in his opening season, like with PSG, but they never really hit straight off the bat like powerful. I feel like for a lot of players, the RLRS, which is a lower skill level, is easier for them to come through and definitely shine. Now, it comes down to Yorks. Are they willing to pick up this rookie talent? And when I say it comes down to Yorks, it comes down to the teams, because we know from Rocket League that the Yorks don't really have a say over everything.
In esports in general, that's the fucking way it is. Even in Counter-Strike, we get so many fucking people who get who just don't have no say over their actual teams that they're fucking paying.
The only exception is League of Legends, it seems, and Overwatch.
Yeah, those are exceptions to the rule just due to the way that they're structured, but in like an open circuit style of like thing, where we have like CS:GO, Dota, obviously Rocket League as well. The thing about it is that, like, I always believe in the open circuit. I always believe that the best teams will always come out on top, assuming you give them the facilities and the infrastructure to do so. And I think that in Rocket League, that is mostly the case. Not always the case, but mostly the case. So when I see players like Astral, Fruity, and First Killer get picked up by these teams, I'm always like, coming in with like a predictable mind and sort of like saying, okay, what can they do this season? And we'll see whether or not they can stay in. But if they really are as terrible as, as people seem to think they are from the fact they're coming out of the bubble scene, I think that they'll drop off in the end. Why are they so special? Well, it's all yet to be seen when they go ahead and start playing. We saw some opportunities for teams and players to make their moves in, and as you mentioned, Fruity sort of like did the best that he did in his opening season. Astral sort of had a shaky little time after he got picked up by Dignitas. We weren't sure whether or not he was a good fit. In the end, he actually managed to adapt and adjust. But if he had stayed the same way, then we would have seen Dignitas being nowhere fucking near where they are right now, and possibly even in the relegation zone if he was that much of a bomb. So there was always a risk in terms of in bringing these players in, because they're very unproven talents, at least for the most part. A 6-mans, I don't think, is an accurate reflection of Rocket League skill at the top end of the competitive ladder. And again, I would agree that I think that the rival series is the best pathway into the championship series as a whole. But at the end of the day, a team can choose who they want to pick and who they want to bring into the fold with their lineups, which is absolutely fair to them. And at the end of the day, they either get to live the glory for that or suffer the consequences. And that is the beauty of the RLCS system. You have to be 100% certain this is the right player, else you're going to basically screw yourself.
Yeah, and we also have to take into account, like, Rocket League with its age thing. Teams won't pick up players that are 14 years old or younger, purely because the whole tournament ecosystem revolves around being 15. So players like, say, Scrub Killa, you remember he just jumped straight on in with Vitality. He had been around for ages. So as soon as he turned 15, he was picked up straight away. That is just how it is, and he had already had that experience. You see that as well a little bit, like First Killer being the example over in NA there, and there is an American young lad, I want to say it's like Chronix or something like that, who I expect a very similar thing, where he's currently 14. As soon as he turns 15, and the NA team is going to pick him up, and that's fine. But like you said, it comes down to the team to take the risk.
Indeed, and I think that pretty much sums up everything about players who make it straight into the RLCS. It's kind of like a very easy sort of topic to talk about. Next one, again coming in from Freecant. If you could make a dream team of EU RLRS players, who would you have on it and why? I hate these fucking questions because there's so many options. Bacon, tell me what says you about who the fuck you'd pick? Because I don't think I have a fucking clue at the moment.
I would probably... See, this is a hard one. because I'd probably go 2 parts RCD with Tox and Zamway and throw an Ixo there, and that would be it. Now, are we going to make any rules where you can have 1 player per team? Like, just to mix it up a little bit? Because realistically, I could just say RCD at the moment, because that seems to be like the strongest RLRS team, you know? So should we make a little rule where you can only have 1 player from a single team? So we have to mix it up?
Yeah, I think let's put that rule in, because, you know, as you say, you know, if it was down to me, I would just say we them girls and call it a fucking day. But obviously that's not very fair. So let's just let's go 1 player per team. For me, I'm gonna go Breezy, Bluey, and Tox.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm gonna go Ixo, Tox, and Tadpole. I think that would have a very point. Nice...
See, I realised what I've done there is I've actually gone for the big hard hitters of each of those teams and realised that actually 3 strikers doesn't fucking work.
Yeah, we're not savage anymore, okay, Jay?
Look, man, if you wanted to fucking if you wanted to only do a team that would make it out of the rival series, then honestly, that would be the best team to pick: Bluey, Tox, and Breezy. In terms of longevity, though, I think your squad actually could go a little bit further in context of the RLCS as well. Yeah. So, you know, maybe if we combine the two and decide to go like, you know, my lineup for the rival series, and then pick up Tadpole and drop, I don't know, Bluey, just to have him play in rival series again.
Could you imagine
for the
like
next
the drama season? Where like you poach a player from a team and then fuck off that player with his old teammate? Like, that would cause so much good drama within Rocket League.
Bluey would keep it inside though, man. He's fucking grown up a lot in the last couple of years. I mean, he's past the point of PSG. So do you know what? There'll be internal drama, but we'd never see it. So that's fair play. Thank you again, Freecant, for your questions. And again, you can also get in on the action and ask us some mailbag questions on the Discord. Again, the links are in the show notes and video descriptions of every single episode of the podcast, where you can get involved with that and our pick and prediction game, which we do have results for this week, Bacon. Mm-hmm. So, for those of you who don't know, we obviously run a prediction game. We have a leaderboard of all of our Discord sort of like users and everyone who gets involved in the chats and everything. So you can also jump in and you can make some predictions and you can win some points and see how well you fare against myself, Bacon, and the rest of the community. I won't lie, Bacon, we've not had a very good set of fucking weeks. We're at the bottom half of the table.
I'll have you know, I got no points at all last week. I threw a week, and I'm still higher than you, so I'll take that as a win.
You just
I gave a handicap to the community. That's what I did. You grabbed
up most of the fucking points this week, though. You scored like second highest of all the people this week. So do you know what? I'm averaging on a sort of nice level of consistency. You're just up and down all around. So you know what? Whatever. Anyways, for those of you who want to know the actual standings, we've got Chewy currently at the top placement, getting all 12 points this week. It is maximum 12, right?
Yep.
Yeah, maximum 12. Chewy got all 12 points for this week's matches, leaving him at a total of 29. Frostbite, of all people, is behind him at 28. For those of you who don't know, Frostbite is like a massive CS fan. So when he came to the Rocket League community, I wasn't sure if he'd be able to like get involved in all these things. But I have to say, man, like, that's fucking awesome to see. Big stuff for Frostbite, but only 1 point behind Chewy in second place. KP, Ties, Woogles, and Dex are in 20. I have 27 points, and are therefore tied for third place down there. John, aka Always from Reddit, is tied with Juicy at 26 points. Trox 23. You, Bacon, are on 21 after scoring 11 points this week. I scored 9 points this week, and I'm only 1 point behind at 20. RL Stats has 19 points to his name, leaving at 6 from this week. Yen's only got 3, so he's back at 11. And J-Man, unfortunately, pulling in the rear at 7 points for the total, getting no points this week, unfortunately. All the predictions going wrong. And yeah, those are the results. Again, me and Bacon are pretty low down those fucking rankings. Also, shout out to Trox, by the way, for creating the best meme I think I've ever seen on the fucking RLAfterShock Twitter to promote the fucking prediction game. That was so funny. So funny. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back and take a look at the Twitter. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it is really. But you got to think, we're still early stages. We've only had 3 out of the 8 weeks of RLCS. So guys, if you haven't signed up yet, you know what? Just try and make your own little divvy up, you know, minus the points that are already down there, and come join on in. And Who knows? You might even beat some people out, even with a 3-week handicap.
Indeed. So let's go ahead and talk about the tournament roundup and tell you the results of who the matches that got people where they were. I should also add, by the way, that table was only the results for the championship series. We don't have the rival series results. Those will be posted about the time that the podcast goes out. So make sure you get involved in that and play into both prediction games so you can see exactly how well you'll do versus us and see how well we do. So, I won't lie to you, Bacon. I was at Epic Land this weekend, so I did not watch any of the rival series, unfortunately. I tried to catch some of the B-Stream action. I wasn't quite able to. But you're going to have to sort of break and fill me in on a lot of the details of these results. So
I watch it.
Yeah, you watch everything. I can't. Again, I feel like such a dickhead saying that. It's like, hey, welcome to the longest running podcast about EU. We're experts, and I don't even watch any of the fucking matches. But let's talk about those results again. Week 2 saw RJM go down to Notorious Legion 0-3. We Dem Girls beat Servette Geneva 3-1 predictably. RCD has a close match against Solary 3-2, and Triple Trouble beat Vertex at 3-1 on the mainstream. On the B stream, RCD swept We Dem Girls. Servette Geneva took the win above Baguette Squad with only a 2-game difference, and BDS also beat Solary a 1-game difference. Leaving your standings for this week is RCD Espanyol, the one of only 2 undefeated teams, but currently sitting at the top with 3-0. We Dem Girls pulling in the rear of that little top pack at 2-1. Notorious Legion 1-0, only 1 result in, but also undefeated. Triple Trouble sitting at evens at 1-1. BDS also the same as Servette Geneva, being at the back of that pack just due to the number of games played, but only a single game difference separating those 3 teams. And RGM behind Servette Geneva by 2-game difference, but also at 1-1. Solary, 2 losses to their name, and only 1 victory puts them in number 8. And Baguette Squad and Vertex yet to get any victories on the board, pulling in the rear of the overall table. Now, let's talk about Notorious Legion, their first outing in the rival series, a very pretty decent victory. Now, again, 3-0 coming in for the newly signed squad. What do we think of that?
So for this series, I'm going to come out and say it. RGM did not play well at all. They were making tons of mistakes and blunders, but Notorious Legion, we talked about them when we saw them in the playing show, when we casted over them, they did not look good, did they? They were a little bit shaky, but they made it on through. So, good on them. And compared to last season, it is a breath of fresh air to come on in, not feel nervous at all. They were capitalized, kept their heads nice and cool. And I mean, the results speak for themselves where, by game 3, they were just running the show. Now, for me, is this going to keep up? I don't know. Notorious Legion, I'm a bit worried that they're going to be a week-by-week team, so they can have their ups and downs, and I do expect that. But it all comes down to Cash. He is such a pivotal player on this team. Remember how I used to describe Bilbo as that hinge player? If Bilbo was having a great week, the team would win. If he wasn't, generally they needed someone to fall back on. And we're seeing a similar case here with Notorious Legion. Yes, Tars and Matane are the core to the team, but they need a massive striking presence and they need a massive power player. Cash is doing that. And when we think of how sort of like he's jumped up a whole level from being top of community level to now past top of bubble and now into RLRS, he is stepping up to the job and looking good.
Yeah, I mean, fair play to him, I had my doubts about this team, obviously, with Matean and Taz. I mean, we took a look at them and we thought to ourselves, this is basically just another attempt at, a last hurrah with the Echo Zulu side, just without any, without the 3-man core of the Netherlands. So, what prospects do this team have going forward? Is Cash going to be enough as a striking force to give them any more victories, or is this just the one hurrah they're going to have?
Considering the blunders of, say, RGM, Vertex not looking good, but Get Squad definitely not looking good for what we expected, Notorious Legion could be in a chance to snag, I think, a 4th to 6th place finish. You're probably looking at about 5th or 6th right now, but they're in a chance to stay up for next season, which I've got to say for the players, focus on that. You've got to know what level you're at. Like, we all expect RCD, Espanyol, We Dem Girls, and Triple Trouble to be the top 3. But if you know your places in the midfield and you got to think these lads are still all in school, like in uni or by age, like college, like sixth form, and maybe even still. No, they're not all that young, but still in college and that sort of thing. Just focus on, school, but focus on your matches and take each week as they come. Focus on that opponent and trying to adjust your play style. Try and be smart with the time you have,
Okay, then. Well, I haven't got much to add to this one because I didn't watch this match. So, obviously, congratulations to NL, and we'll see how well they'll be able to do going forward. RCD, though, have certainly been able to establish themselves, as I mentioned, top of the table this week with big victories above Solary, and impressively enough, 3-0 against We Dem Girls. Now, there is like a bit of a flip side to this coin in the sense that we already know that We Dem Girls are having problems with their team formation and their composition chemistry. So with the new meta shifts coming through, like how much of that affected We Dem Girls in their B-Stream match? I know that you were the one who was casting this one. So tell me, what did you see in that server that, either was so right for RCD or not so much for We Dem Girls?
So We Dem Girls really struggled to get any effective passing plays together. They did not look good. They were stuck in defense way too much, waiting for a counter opportunity, which I would have expected to be a decent answer to RCD, who are just going to pressure, and then We Dem Girls are going to just counter. Like, it should be a natural back and forth of these two teams, but We Dem Girls counters were not effective. RCD, I'm going to say, sort of through game 2, hence why it went to an overtime, but that was just because they got a little bit more conservative. They relaxed a little bit. It got to a point where I think We Dem Girls were in a 2-0 lead, maybe in 3-0 lead. I can't remember off the top of my head. And then RCD just absolutely spanked it on back and got it into overtime. And then a quick, near enough overtime kickoff goal. RCD right now are looking so impressive, Jay. We've seen the opponents they've gone up against, and they've basically taken down their strongest opponents, the strongest contenders. So right on from now, RCD should be, in one-way traffic to first in RLRS, which is crazy, and we're only 2 weeks in.
I mean, they looked impressive doing so from the score lines alone, They had two goal differentials in games 1 and 3, and again, you mentioned, there was that big comeback in game 2 with the overtime goal, which I have to say it is not a good look for We Dem Girls considering the talents we saw on that side. And, just to revisit that topic, because we've sort of been back and forth about whether or not it's a good idea or a bad idea to have these striking elements or not. And we've had a big sort of hoo-ha about their chemistry issues. And it's like, what's going on with these guys? These guys should be easily making it into the top end position of this table. Like, why are they so far behind everybody else by comparison, just due to their name value alone? I mean, yeah, they are in second place, but let's be real here. That should be a 3-0 for them, not for RCD.
It feels like the players don't actually link up correctly. I don't know whether it's personality or chemistry-wise. We talked about this before on stream. Breezy even confirmed it, that the way the team thinks is the next meta, and we started to see it come out from Mouse and Reciprocity as well as an option, but it's that whole, you're continuously counterplaying your opponents. We Dem Girls did not have, they were pretty fresh together. They only had the 1 month since their break aparts from previous projects and whatnot to come together and form this team. They need to just focus on very aggressive plays and trying to just be very ball chasey, to be honest, because it's easier for the team to manage and for them to call out one player to stay back. This is why I was saying before, Greasy, who is a fantastic defender, he wants to get up into attack too much, and it does cost the team because Breezy and Inkso like to stick in attack as well. So you've got 3 players that will want to be up in their opponent's half of the field and get caught off guard way too often.
So once again, we're back to the whole Greasy should be defensive thing.
Yes, and I know that annoys the lad purely because Greasy's a good attacker. You cannot take anything away from him there. The difference is that on his team, he is the best defender. So utilize that, and the team is not thinking of, they're continuously thinking of counter strats and what their opponent is doing, but not what they can do themselves to improve themselves. They're just thinking, how do we be our opponent. So when it comes into a game like this, where RCD is just so well polished and their, problems are very minuscule, Weedham Girls don't have an answer to that, and they're pretty frail. They're pretty fragile on their own behalf. So they crumble and fall. And a 3-0 game, we were not expecting, because we thought with this counter strat, Weedham Girls would have found, a kink in the armor, a little crack in the wall, and they didn't find that and really didn't get anything going. They would, I think I described it, just literally rubbing their heads up against a brick wall, not getting anything out of it.
Well, Weedham Girls did not just manage to lose against RCD, they managed to lose a game against Servette Geneva, who had a pretty good week of their own right. Just before we move on to that, honestly, I have to say that Weedham Girls, are they in sort of like a worrying position right now? Are they to lose sort of like the RCD in a 3-0 fashion, to even lose a game against Servette Geneva, the new blood who we thought would be really fucking awkward this season? Are Weedham Girls teetering on the edge of a really disappointing season?
So Servette Geneva played brilliantly this week. In that game against Weedham Girls, Yagi was absolutely popping off and crazy. Against Baguette Squad, Mirrorwing finally showed up. But just to put that into context there before we go on to Servette later, but for Weedham Girls, this is still them with massive blinding problems that we can all see. Yet they're 2-1 in league play. Agreed. They've taken down teams that you would expect them to take down, and they should, by the caliber of the players. But when it comes up to a team that can match them on level, they absolutely get swept. It's coming down to Weedham Girls is purely based off of mechanical skill and player prowess instead of a team. This is not a team yet. It is 3 lads playing solo standard. And they need to up that, because if they make it into a top 3 spot, Weedham Girls, and they go up against the teams coming down in the promotion playoffs, because I don't expect Weedham Girls to come out first. But if they go up against the teams in the promotion playoffs, your TSM, your, at the moment, ASM are probably, or whichever teams come down, are probably going to be thanking their lucky stars, because they'll have a way to take down this side, and they're strong enough mechanically to be able to keep up with them, because that's what Weedham Girls have at the moment. They're faster, they're stronger, they're more efficient with their hits and being able to get shots on target over the RLRS skill level, and that is all they have.
That won't be enough to get them further. I mean, it probably should be enough to get them past the RLRS, but in the Championship Series, they are going to have some serious fucking problems. So, Weedham Girls, not as hyped as we thought they would be. But as you mentioned earlier, Servette Geneva having a really fucking good week. Took a game off Weedham Girls in a series that they thought they would get fucking trounced on.
Yep.
But also managing to turn around the next day on the B stream and beat the Baguette Squad in what was actually a pretty impressive little series. They managed to get, 3 wins versus 1 game of the Baguette Squad side, and they were all within 1 game of each other. But you mentioned that Servette Geneva had a really fucking good performance week. Tell me more about that.
So, coming into the Weedham Girls side, Yagi was popping off. He is a fantastic player, and a lot of RLRS players are noticing him, which is crazy to see, because, can you remember him on the Donkey squad beforehand and just sort of like lower bubble scene? But here it shows it really comes down to teams. It's not just players individually can have a massive impact, but the team that they're on. Because Servette, going into that one against Baguette Squad, was not having a good day, but Yagi was still popping off, still feeling it. But the biggest factor there, Mirrorwing finally showed up. And Jay, we were saying on this team, Mirrorwing is potentially the best player if he's playing well, and he just didn't have any confidence. He finally got that confidence, and boy, oh boy, did he pop off. He was involved in, I think it was something like 90% of the goals, if not all of them. He was just getting right up into the grills of his opponents, getting right up into that attack, scoring hat-tricks upon hat-tricks, getting tons of assists, and was just an absolute beast. It was crazy to see. And people finally, after so long, after not really knowing what this guy's doing, because even in the planes, Mirroring wasn't playing well. We're looking at him and going, who the fuck is this guy? Because he was incredible. If Servette Geneva can keep that run of performance going, if they can play like this for the rest of the RLRS league, they're a top 6 team. They're staying up, which, I mean, us as fanboys, squealing on the inside. We're really proper happy, a grin ear to ear, because these lads have grinded for so long, haven't they, together? Yeah. They have been working at this, and it's finally come to show what we've been saying for so long. Stick together as a team, just continuously grind. It will pay off, and it is showing here.
Was this looking like the Servette Geneva that we saw in the Swiss national tournaments, like the TCS and SCSL?
It's hard to compare. It's really hard to compare because the national stuff is at a lot slower pace. So Servette Geneva, who are an international team, RLRS team now, They were by far faster, the most mechanically skilled players. They were able to trounce anyone on the national scale. But coming in here, they're going head to head, and it's coming down to those team plays, a lot of passing plays, which are beating out the RLRS teams. Because a lot of the RLRS teams are still very much heavy pace based and just trying to win challenges, win those 50-50s, get follow-up hits, and just break down defense that way. Whereas Servette Geneva have so many passing plays, so many layoffs, and they're sort of an RLCS team from about 2-3 seasons ago. So they're a little bit behind the curve, but that is natural. That's what the RLRS is going to be at. It's the second division. It's going to be a bit behind, but it shows that Servette Geneva have all the foundations currently in place to grow and get better, and they're going in the right direction to what a team should be.
I guess, and now that you made that comparison point, Bacon, I hesitate to ask this, but I'll ask you it anyway. If Servette Geneva are a team and we them girls are looking like a bunch of solo standard players off the back of their performances this past weekend, who would you rank higher in terms of the overall placings on the board?
Oh, that's an awkward one. So,
Weedham girls still have, I had to ask you.
Weedham girls still have the chance to grow. Like, you got to think, they don't have it. Weedham girls don't have any matches next week. The following week, they've got Notorious Legion, which is going to be a good little taster, a good little test for them to come back into it, because I think they need to go away and have a serious think about how they play Rocket League, and they will. They'll come back and they should have fixed all their problems. After that, then they've got Baguette Squad and then Triple Trouble. Following that, they've got pretty much easy, because you got to think right now they've already faced RCD. That's a loss they can take, isn't it, realistically? Because Weedham girls will be fine as long as they get into the top 3 and they fix their problems. So they've taken their big loss at the perfect time, realistically, when they have a break afterwards to go change stuff up. Servette Geneva, who knows? Next week, they've got RGM, which is going to be a head-to-head rival. Like, that is pretty much on par with each other, isn't it? They could be a win, it could be a loss. We'll see. RGM didn't play great in week 2. They could bounce back for week 3. But then Servette Geneva have Triple Trouble. Now, Triple Trouble is in a very similar state as Weedham girls, as in they've got a little bit more team play going on, but they've still got a lot of blinding mistakes out there. And so Servette Geneva could, if they can take the win there, that is going to be another upset as such, and probably put Servette Geneva on the right track that they want to be, and show everyone that they're not like, just we scraped through in the lower bracket, we're here as the token expected to come last team. No, we're here to play, we're here to stay.
Or stay, they will look to try and take again against RJM next week. And they're also going to Triple Trouble on that B stream, so we'll keep our eyes on how Servette Geneva will do for that. But another team making their debut this week was Solary.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the organization,
yes.
The organization's debut. Block obviously were competing against Vertex last week, and they had a really good start. This week, though, they took 2 losses. So they were close losses, one of which was against RCD as well, Bacon. So it's promising times right now for Solary at the moment.
So against RCD, you take a look at that and how we've been praising RCD and such. you go, that's fine. That's, if anything, you're a glass half full kind of guy. That's a good result because they were expected to lose this. Most people would put that down as a 3-1 result, So for Solary to come out 3-2 with 2 OTs, that last one going like 5 minutes and change, absolute nuts coming out there. Solary actually right now are pushing themselves as more than just another token French team, as this is a team that could do some damage if you're not careful. They're currently, I know on the board, they're currently down in 8th because of losses, but if you're at a loss, but equal on games, that shows you got a lot of caliber about you. They could take a massive bounce back because they have not, in that week, they didn't have easy opponents with RCD and BDS, the old ARG squad, who ARG are in a situation where they're probably gunning to just stay up once again, and Solary that's their hardest competition. So right now, that super close game where BDS really did show up, like this is the best I've seen the squad play. You just got to try and take wins as they are and try and take each week head on. Solary now will be going up next week, could potentially take down Triple Trouble. I see Triple Trouble struggling to Solary there. And then following on with Notorious Legion, that's another head-to-head. That's another team which they're very, good competition against. That will be a benchmark. So Solary, yes, they've got 2 losses, but it's still early stages. They've still got another 6 games to play. Don't count them out yet because they're down in 8th. This is a team to really keep your eye on, because as we saw, like with last season, for example, with Baguette Squad, who didn't look that good, I think it was, for the majority of the season, but then just in the last week or 2, they really brought it on back just because of how points worked out. Solary, they're a sleeper team, I think, just because of how the system goes.
Well, let's see how well they'll be able to sleep their way up to the top, if that's even a thing. I don't fucking know.
If you can do that. I mean, I want to know that strat, please, because that could come in very handy.
Well, anyway, we'll see how well they'll do anyway. All right, so let's move on to the week 3 matches, obviously. 7 matches once again to play for, with the mainstream seeing BDS taking on Notorious Legion, RJM versus Servette Geneva, Baguette Squad versus Vertex, and Triple Trouble versus Solary, with the B stream matches being Triple Trouble versus Servette, RJM versus Vertex, and Solary versus Notorious Legion. First off, Bacon, match of the week. Which one do you think it is?
Oh, for me, I would want to put this down as Triple Trouble versus Solary. If not that, it'd be Solary versus Notorious Legion. For me, it is purely come down to see what Solary do to bounce back, because this is a very young French team, so for them to take losses is going to be hard in the mentality, but how do they take that? Do they see how close they were and just go, right, this is what we've got to improve on, then we'll get those wins, especially since they're going up against 2 decent opponents? And I'm really intrigued because this is, like I said, the team probably with the most future career potential within the RLRS, in the sense of these players are all still 15, 16. We know how French teams, play and how they can grow. So Solary, I'd be intrigued, especially Melo Shishu. I think that lad is going to be ridiculous in a year's time. He will be in the RLCS.
Yeah, I want to say TT versus Solary as well as my main match to watch, but as an honourable mention, I'm going to go RJM versus Servette Geneva, because I feel like in terms of the closities and how excuse me, how even those teams will be, those will that'll be that the best match in terms of a basic ranking. So there you go. That's round 3 for you all. Oh shit! Predictions as well. I forgot. Bacon, give me your give me your wins and score lines going down the board.
BDS to win 3-2 against Notorious Legion. Servette Geneva to beat RJM 3-1. Baguette Squad to beat Vertex 3-2, and I think this is Vertex slightly coming back. And then Solary to take down Triple Trouble 3-2. Triple Trouble will take down Servette Geneva 3-1. RGM to beat Vertex 3-2. And then Solary to beat Notorious Legion 3-2. I think Solary are going to have that bounce back week. Notorious Legion are going to be a little bit sad.
I'm going to go Notorious Legion 3-2 above BDS. I'm going to go Servette beating RJM 3-0.
Okay.
Very bold prediction. Although I think Baguette Squad are going to have Vertex pretty easy.
Is this just because TCS starts up again next week and you want to, like, be a little bit of a braggart there?
No, actually, I don't give a fuck, to be honest. If they fuck it up, I don't care. But no, I just think RJM haven't impressed me so far, with the exception of that win against Baguette Squad early on, which even could have been an easy Baguette Squad result. But speaking of Baguette Squad, I'm taking them above Vertex. I think it will be a 3-1 victory, and I've got Triple Trouble above Solary 3-2. For second stream matches, I've got Triple Trouble above Servette 3-2, Vertex above RJM at 3-1, and Notorious Legion above Solary 3-2. Tough couple of matches. A couple of bold predictions from me in that one.
I mean, the boldest one being Servette Geneva 3-0 against RJM, but I think, like, that's fine. Yeah, I think you're sleeping on Solary here. They could do another week where it's just shy losses. But I don't know. For you to be so bold in the Notorious Legion camp, thinking they're going to get 2 wins and move on to 3-0, I have not seen that yet. If we're going on past performance where Cash has been, a little bit nervous, he finally beat those nerves last week, but could he slip back into them? You're basing this off 1 win, Jay. So I'm not confident yet. Week 3 will be the time for Notorious Legion to make me a fan of them,
I think I haven't seen any of their matches, so I'm just going based off the fucking scores. So, I could fuck this up entirely. I don't care. Rival Series is my throwaway. The Championship Series is where it's fucking at. And let's get into those results for this weekend. So, Dignitas went above Singularity 3-1. Endpoint swept ASM out of the server 3-0. Mousesports also finished off Singularity's doubleheader with a second loss at 3-1. When Vitality started their doubleheader with a 3-1 win against TSM. Veloce managed to scrape by against Reciprocity 3-2, and Vitality finished off the night with a highlight match against FCB with a 3-1 win. Leaving your standings for this week: Dignitas up 3-0. Rena Vitality up to 3-1 in a second place position. Reciprocity, SC Barcelona, and Veloce and Mousesports in the 3rd to 6th sort of dominating region at 2-1 apiece, with Reciprocity just beating out the other teams below them with a +3 game difference versus +2 for everybody else. Endpoint have a 1-2 record, leaving them at 7th place and within the safety net, essentially. And Singularity down in 8th at 1-3. TSM and AS Monaco yet to get victories on the board at 0-3. However, Bacon. So let's start with Singularity. Now, we fucking raved about these guys last week. We were so hyped about how well they were going to do, because they had such a great game plan against the against the Rena Vitality side. But this week, they didn't have any sort of game plan, at least against Dignitas. I can't speak much for Mouse because I didn't watch the entire series for that one, but it felt much the same to me. Singularity just weren't able to sort of play to the opponent's sort of weaknesses. They felt like they were just playing sort of like really awkward style of Rocket League to try and, or awkward for them, I should say, not awkward for their opponents. They just felt like they were just kind of touching the ball without any real purpose or plan. And that left them in some very fucking real bad situations. I just kept feeling like Dignitas were applying the pressure against Singularity. There was no way for them to break out of their own half because there was no breathing room being given, and Singularity couldn't take that breathing room back. They couldn't take it away from Dignitas. It really felt like a completely different sort of Singularity from what we saw last week.
Yeah, so last week, and this is the big change here, Dig were playing good. We can't take that away from them. But last week,
absolutely.
Like, we know Nolly is a beast. Nolly was a beast. He is the Lord and Savior of this team, it feels like, at the moment, because he is such a strong core, being so good in defense and so good on the counterplays and the aggression. But the biggest crucial thing to look at last week, God Smiller's, I don't want to say brain dead style of just running at the ball worked against Vitality, because Vitality didn't know really how to deal with that. But this week, there were so many like flybys, where he's predicting the ball and predicting it really wrong.
Yeah, I saw that a lot as well.
this comes down to a player play style which really did not work against Dig. Dig can handle that. And that just meant that for, I'm going to say a harsh statistic that I'm pulling straight out my ass, for 80% of the game, Gods Miller was not involved whatsoever and was just basically a spectator. Purely because, you're trying to, make Dignitas respond to you by, I don't know, throwing the ball, trying to get a pass early or whatever. But Dignitas just drove around him. He was literally just flying by. They did not give a shit. Yeah. They knew what he was doing. So he was just throwing himself at the ball, missing, and Dig were just able to continue on like they were. He was doing and jack all. And this is the biggest problem. Like I said, without knowledge, Though is fine. Though has proved himself to be, I'm going to say, a bottom of RLCS player. That's absolutely fine. But Nolly is proving himself to be one of the best in EU at the moment with how he is such a difference maker for this team. He is in this day alone carrying the, like, if we were to do, like how in CS you have that, like, I'm going to say ADR, where it's like trying to value like what your worth is on the team. Nolly is close to being worth 2 players on the pitch there, because he's just doing such a bang up job. Like we had earlier with the question from Freecant, who would be in your EU RLRS team. If we were to do that, both RLCS, Nolly is my first pick at the moment, because he is such a good player in the RLCS. Like, and he's not had an easy go off it. He's had reciprocity go up against improve his worth. He's had vitality and now Dig, arguably the 3 toughest teams at the moment, and he has proved himself to be a standout player. That lad is going places, and it's crazy to see. And for me, it just comes down to Singularity playstyle will be hit and miss dependent on opponents. They've gone up against the strongest guys there. Arguably, it shows that Vitality have got some little problems going on. They didn't. We don't know if they fix them for this week because different playstyles, but it shows to me that Dig are ones to watch out for. Like, Dig you might have been sleeping them a little bit, because you generally do. You don't see anything impressive from Dignitas, but they seem to play at a required level. But this week, they just kept good pressure. They were playing smart. Nothing really extraordinary. They weren't doing anything that would wow everyone on the server, but they were just having a very good controlled game. And it puts them at a 3-0 top of the leaderboard and only dropping 4 games in total across this season so far. Dig are in a phenomenal place, and Singularity, whilst they're in a decent position coming through as the promoted team, and they had to do it through the promotion playoffs. I've got confidence in Singularity. I weight them quite heavily against the lower place teams, because, again, they've only played against the very top teams, as it were, like all 4 of the top ones. I weight them quite heavily just purely from their pace and their prowess against the likes of, say, TSM, ASM, Endpoint. I think Singularity are on track to get a lower top 6 finish, like a 5th, 6th spot.
I can't agree with you on the Singularity rep, to be honest. I mean, I can agree with you wholeheartedly with Dignitas, to be honest, that they've currently had a really good season so far, but I also will have the caveat that I think I would have picked Dignitas to win against TSM and ASM and Singularity all back-to-back. So, like, I think that they've currently got the expected results, and their real challenge is going to start next week, where they've got Mousesports and they've got FC Barcelona the week after that, and they've got Vitality in week 6. So, for me, the jury's still out on Dignitas, but not out as much as it is on Singularity. Like, we saw such a well-coordinated, well-rehearsed, sort of fucking placed play style against Renault Vitality that was so well prepared from Singularity. And in this week, we saw none of that whatsoever, but not either against Dignitas or against Mousesports. Like, they had a fucking really, really bad time. And I can't help but feel like they got complacent this week because they got the victory against Vitality, thought they could take it easier. It's like, no, even with Nolly being as amazing as he is, the rest of the team, just pound for pound, do not match up to the rest of the talent in the championship series. I'd say that pound for pound, they're the weakest team on the fucking board. Safe the part of solo mid, depending on how you look at everybody in that roster. Singularity for me have the hardest time to stay in this championship, and and like they need to try and bring that sort of leadership and team play style back to the fold, because they had a really, really good fucking time against Renault Vitality. Yes, they barely scraped by, but they managed to get the victory against one of the best teams in the league, a team that in theory should be up 4-0 by all accounts right now in that top 2 position. But they're not, because of the way the Singularity are playing. And it's like, if they're going to only pop up the calculated play style once in a while, then we're not going to be seeing much of Singularity after this season, for me. You know, I just don't have faith in that. And again, if we've got some situations where they're going to get really complacent or otherwise beaten into the dirt on game 1, by game 2 you could see that they were like, you know, really fucking panicking against Dignitas, like really badly. That's what left to Godsmiller being so, you know, inaccurate on all of his touches, let alone the double commits coming out from the back lines. Like, Singularity did not have a fucking good time whatsoever. And while you rate them, for me at the moment, I just can't rate them at the moment, because I haven't seen anything outside of that Renault Vitality result that gives me a lot of confidence, and the stuff that I have seen that would sway my opinion one way or the other have all just been pretty negative, to be honest.
So after the viewing pie on the RLAfterShock Twitch on Sunday,
which you can catch every Sunday night, by the way, if you don't fancy watching the main broadcast. So twitch.tv/RLAfterShock. Continue, Bacon.
I could do one for Rival Series on Fridays, but I'm too much of a lazy arsehole. And Friday is my rest day, dude. So it's that case of I don't want to commit Fridays, because like that's when I go meet up with friends. But yeah, I try and tune on in as much as I can. But yeah, we did like a tier list, Jay. Me and chat. Can you guess where we placed Singularity at the moment?
Don't tell me you placed them fucking S tier as shit. No.
No. Of course not. No, we put them B tier, the mid. They were exactly mid of all RLCS teams, including NA.
For context, all of them. Okay, right. I wasn't sure if you were doing
EU, and the entire dead in the middle of the entirety of RLCS.
I think that we might be seeing a different sort of setup as the weeks go by, to be honest, Bacon. I feel like the narrative might change on Singularity at the back of that one. I agree, to be honest. Right now, I agree. Like, especially with Nolly being the way that he is. You know, I think that, you know, they could easily make a top 6 if they bring that old playstyle back. But if they don't, then we've got problems.
So to put that into context, just because I'm using that as like how, like, I feel like everyone is seeing the brighter side of things. And how a lot of us are hopeful. Singularity have gone up, like we said, against the 4 toughest opponents. And now there is a little problem with their playstyle. You were saying how it was so well rehearsed against Renault Vitality. It didn't look the same this week. They had the exact same playstyle. It shows their opponents. And who that works against. It worked against Renault Vitality, didn't work against Reciprocity, didn't work against Dig, didn't work against Mouse. Now, the thing that Singularity need to go away and do is create wiggle room. They need to become a little bit more adaptable, don't they? So they've got a very well rehearsed, very well thought out playstyle, but they don't have a plan B or a plan C. Like we're saying at the moment that a lot of RLCS teams need to have a repertoire of at least 2 playstyles, ideally 3, that they can go to. You know, if they lose a game, just go, shit, what we're doing is not working. We need to go to, you know, being more aggressive or whatever, and, you know, change up their playstyle. Singularity don't do that. So right now I'm in a worried point. Currently, Singularity are looking the 6th best team. But if we go into next week, Veloce can see that as well, and I imagine they will because they're smart players, and just go, okay, this is the only way Singularity plays. Let's change that up. Let's completely counter them. Singularity could get swept by Veloce. And you know that does not make me a happy bunny at all, because actually that made me happy because it means like Veloce doesn't make me happy either. But you know, what I'm saying is Singularity are looking good, but it's very tunneled at the moment. I think week 4 with that game against Veloce, who would be one of arguably the toughest contenders, because I think Veloce currently sit on that sort of 6th place. They are the bar, you know. If Singularity be it, I think they deserve all the praise again. If they don't be it, then I might readjust that placement, you know?
Well, the bar is about to be set next week for Singularity. For this week, though, it is 2 losses down. Therefore, they are in the promotion playoff zone. So keep your eyes on how well they'll hold their own. But moving on, Endpoint versus ASM, the rematch from the Rival Series or promotion playoffs, if you remember from last season, where they had those two teams playing for that first place position in that particular bracket. It was a rematch from this one. Last time, it was ASM taking the victory above Endpoint. This time, Endpoint swept the shit out of ASM. Holy crap, what the fuck happened?
Yeah, and I don't know what is going on with ASM, because Endpoint didn't have the greatest series ever. And they were playing what I would say is subpar for them, from what we've seen in previous weeks. They were just doing enough. Yes, there was 2 OTs, but ASM right now are in a very, very dodgy position because we're going to say it already. They're currently in a place where, making top 4 is gone already. Like you look at who they've gone up against. ASM took on Mouse. Okay, fair enough. They then took on Dig. Fair enough. But going up against Endpoint should have been their bounce back. The same for Endpoint, realistically, as well, because they're 2 tough opponents. Don't get me wrong. Last week, they did nothing up against FCB and looked quite bad for it. But this week, they bounced back, and that's good for them. Like, it's just a case of Endpoint are doing, I want to say, is expected. Like, out of the teams coming through, we all thought Endpoint would be the strongest team to make it out of the RLRS. Just looking at their potential and such and how they would grow into this. ASM, though, we thought would probably have a little bit of a problem against them, but against more of the seasoned teams, Veloce, TSM, they should be out Singularity. Could even take on Barcelona, and we thought they could be in contention to make a top 6 finish. They've shown nothing of that, and ASM right now they're dwindling away. They look like they could, if they don't fix their things, they're going to be that auto demotion team. Like,
well, right now that's where they stand on the table.
if they continue this current form, like if they continue like playing how they are, they're going to be fighting with Team Solo Mid to literally be the only team not to bottom out 0-9. Like, that is a scary proposition. You don't want to repeat or complexity from last season. And that's saying, like, with complexity getting so many close game 5s, it's not a pretty sight for ASM right now.
Yeah, I mean, I could give them some leeway with the Mousesports result and Dignitas result, but this week, obviously, last week I mentioned this was one of my matches to watch, and it was because this would be the first time for ASM to really step it up. Endpoint already had a great restart against Renault Vitality, shit the bed against FC Barcelona, but now this was going to be the benchmark for both of these teams, and for ASM it would have been their opportunity to get the first win on the board as well. I honestly would have thought this one to be a close little affair, but they haven't shown anything against Endpoint either, which is just like, okay, now things are getting really concerning for AS Monaco, especially now that they've kind of got all the, they've got the big sort of like teams, the big surprises out of or the big sort of like, victories out of the way. They've got Singularity coming up as well, which might be another easy victory for them, depending on how if they can get their shit together. But against Endpoint, this should have been a closer match than it really was. And I think you made a mention about some of the players that aren't really stepping up to the plate. I think before we went live and recorded the show, you mentioned that Extra needs a better team. I think it was the thing that you said. Talk to me more about that.
We all agreed, like at the moment, Extra is just such a hard carry. We were talking about this on the viewing party and such, and I'll reiterate it again. If Alpha doesn't fit up to the potential by the end of the season that you think he would on Vitality, I wouldn't be surprised if Vitality quickly swap him out for Extra. Extra is at that quality where he is already, top of RLCS. Like, he is a world contender. He is absolutely phenomenal. Very akin to Nolly over on Singularity. Now, we're saying this, but is that the caveat of they're doing the most work and it's because they're on poorer teams that they shine through more? Who knows? I think it's still too early to call, Alpha doesn't fit yet, because they're trying to learn around it, and realistically, Vitality have done okay. Their only demerit was the loss against Singularity, but they've done 3-1 against Endpoint, 3-1 against TSM, 3-1 against FCB. That, by all accounts, is absolutely fine. That's what you would expect. So it's an awkward one. And realistically, we could see maybe in the off season, if ASM get demoted, for example, Extra will get picked up by another team. Who that is, I don't know. Like, we even speculated maybe if Reciprocity has another NAF season, they might call it quits on this team. You know, as in, like, the three of them might say, we need to make a change. It's clearly not working, you know? Some of us might have even expected that after last Worlds, but then, you know, such a short off season, it was good they stuck together. Who knows what's going on? Of course, I don't want Reciprocity to break up. They're three lovely lads, but you can see the potential there. It was like, you know, Cassio and Veloce is clearly the standout player, but that's a lot more even a team, isn't it? Whereas here, Extra's really showing his worth, and he's crazy right now. Tigray is absolutely fine. He is, I would say, the bar of a player, like being set to, if you're on RLCS quality, like just to get into it. But Ignite is not having a good season so far. He has slumped on back. And that's really curious,
actually. That's really curious because, like, you know, we saw him after he got kicked from TSM, and it was like, okay, well, this is his chance for a redemption story, and the story sort of started off in a really good form with the DreamHack results, and then he came into the rival series, beat the shit out of everybody, and now ASM are falling by the wayside. Like, and how much of that is down to Ignite, really? Like, is he just not a player that's worthy of the championship, or what's going on with this? Is it confidence? Like, you know, because again, he's had such a great little setup there when he was back with We Dem Goals, before they got signed to TSM. You know, he's had such a great little performance with AS Monaco and at the DreamHack lands and the off season as well. Like, what the fuck is going on with this ASM side? I don't understand why Ignite seems to get to RLCS and then just absolutely shit the bed.
Yeah, nor do I, and it's a little bit of a weird one because I'm being harsh on Ignite because if you look at him statistically, he is doing good compared. And, like, you know how I was saying how Tigray is the bar to be set for an RLCS, like, just to get in player. Ignite is outdoing Tigray, but Tigray's role on the team, we've got to think about roles in teams, don't we? Ignite's a striker, so he should be getting more points. He should be able to bolster those stats. And Tigray's a core player, so he is just looking to get saves, pass the ball upfield, and get his teammates, like, fed. Ignite needs to be popping off more. You take a look at that endpoint game, he got a total of 1 goal. No, I'm not kidding you. Don't get me wrong. That's, like, not fantastic. Extra didn't get any more goals. Extra had a pre-NAF game as it was, but he was so clutch in his plays and was really instigating a lot. The problem being that his teammates weren't in place to pick up of that. But Ignite should be getting, you know, the king's portion of goals each game. He should be the one banging it on in. He's the finisher of the side. It's down to Extra and Tigray to go find him. So right now, Ignite is doing okay in the midfield. His defense is okay as well, but he is not doing well in attack, and he's got to sort that out. He has got to be in place for his teammates just to get the ball to him, and then he can show that striking prowess, his brilliant shot placement, and put it down onto target, because, yeah, it's just not coming through at the moment. He is not the complete package that he needs to be.
Yeah, and that might be concerning for AS Monaco going forward. Next week, they've got Renault Vitality and TSM, which admittedly, TSM might be a bit of a free victory, but we'll have to see how well that goes for them going into next week. For now, let's move on and talk about Veloce, who managed this week to secure a second win. Last week was against TSM, which admittedly could have been a decent, which admittedly, again, I'm going to consider all results against TSM 3 wins at this stage because they are looking absolutely fucking dreadful.
Yeah, you should. I hate TSM once again. Week 1, I thought they would come back. You know, I was so happy. Last week, I got very depressed. This week, I just gave up on them.
I think we'll delve into more details with TSM when they take on AS Monaco next week, because I think that will really set the benchmark for how shit they really will be, because right now those two are the bottom two. So if they lose against ASM, that might be the 0-9 season right there. But Veloce managed, of course, to nearly reverse sweep FC Barcelona. Of course, there was that stupid result in week 1. Week 2, they got the TSM win. And this time, they actually got a decent good victory above Reciprocity, which was a 5-game series, but it was a win for Veloce nonetheless. Now, for the past few weeks, we've been bashing Veloce left, right, and center. We've been going on about how they don't deserve to be in the championship, or in the World Championship at least. But in the championship series, like, you know, at the end of the day, results are results, and they don't lie. You know, they're currently 5th place in the table. They are in, you know, with a shot to make it to the regional championship if we ended the season right now. So with Veloce, is it time to change the tune on this team, or is there still are there still question marks, and are there still concerns going forward for this squad?
My question marks comes down to the side of, because you've got Cassio, such a fantastic player, but I feel like Flame is way too quiet. I don't know what it is, but I don't have much confidence in him as a player. He's just getting outdone by his teammates in every single category, and he is way too quiet for me to really make the mark. This is why I always put them down as a mid-table team, because they're not a full team together. Freaky, very akin to Godsmiller. Now we're saying, has a lot of he is uber aggressive. He is trying to cause faults in their opponents. And sometimes it's just a play style I hate to see, just because when it works, it works, sure. But when it doesn't, you are so out of place, and it's a big problem. The big question here comes down to Reciprocity, Jay, because Reciprocity were not having a good day at all. To put it quite, frank, Ferrer was, he was not doing good today. He was not playing well at all. Bottom of the team by near enough every single account, which might be a bit surprising, because they've got such a little bit of a trio going on, to how they play. And like, Ferrer does get involved in goals. He does get involved in saves. He does get involved in shots and that, but he didn't get any assists at all. He was very much just end in end, not stuck and not doing any midfield work, which is generally his strongest place to be. And it felt like he just he wasn't in a great place. And you can see how that affects both Fruity and Chaucet, because Ferrer's the core to his team, very surprisingly. And Fruity and Chaucet can switch between their roles, but they can't switch with Ferrer. And it's causing them problems. So, yeah, you can get rid of Chaucet. Like, if Chaucet's having a bad day, Fruity will go into attack. But if Ferrer's having a bad day, they're very uncomfortable and don't know what to do, when this on paper should have been a win for Reciprocity, easy, like a 3-1 at worst. And it shows when they're not having a great day, they just don't know how to deal with a very average team, I'm going to put it at, in their play style of just 3-man rotations normally. And it's very odd.
So would you say this result for Veloce was not legit, or was it, a good victory, or what,
I'm going to say once again, they can't be allowed to walk on through to the well. It's very feeling like last season. Veloce just catch teams, luckily on off days, and it's not by any account of their own, because Veloce don't seem to be playing a playstyle that just, pressures opponents, tries to nullify them, cancel them out. They're just playing their own style. Veloce just do what they want to do, and teams just don't seem to try and stop them as such. And so teams are just, dropping by the wayside purely because, I don't know, Veloce are blessed by some higher being that is just looking over them and giving them wins. There is no, logic to it. Statistically, they're not fantastic at all. Cassio, of course, always shines well and above any other player, but realistically, in any other margin, they're not anything to write home about. So it's always strange for me. Yes, their wins, like Veloce's win against TSM, understandable last week. Week 1, for them to go to game 5 against FCB, I'd expect that. But for them to get a win over Reciprocity boggles me. I don't know how. Like, when Reciprocity were able to half-ass it against Mouse last week, and then come in and lose to Veloce when, again, Ferrer wasn't particularly thin on the day and it crumbled the team. There's no logic to it. It's a hard one.
I just don't know what to think about Veloce.
It's the one
because
result I can't put, a real good answer to.
I want to believe that this team is now finding a form that they're, happy with, that that they can use and they can have a good set of games with, but I'm just not sure yet. I still got to see a little bit more out of Veloce for me before we see anything massive. Next week is the thing, right? They've got Singularity, who I still don't have any confidence in, and Endpoint, who they will who of course can be shaky depending on how fucking how well they compete. Obviously we saw them shit the bed against FC Barcelona. We saw them have a great game against AS Monaco. We saw them take one off at Roundup Vitality when they were in form, and it's like if they have that one day where just say Virtuoso, for example, doesn't step up to the plate, then the whole team crumbles, and that's another skate for Veloce. And it's like then the questions continue to fucking pile on. It's not like I'm saying Veloce are a bad team, but it's like by comparison, I wouldn't have called Reciprocity to win this, but because Ferro was not on form, Veloce skated by. Singularity, I could say the exact same thing. If they come in with a game plan, Veloce shouldn't win, but if they don't, Veloce are going to skate on by. If Endpoint don't have all their players playing on form, Veloce are going to skate on by. And I'm one of the biggest Veloce fans there is out there. I fucking love the organization. I love the players. For those of you who watched the last World Championship, I was the dude holding the freaky fucking cardboard cutouts. But I don't think the performance of this team is that which is worthy of a World Championship, considering the fact that all their results are skates.
Yeah, that's why we don't rate Veloce. It just seems like it comes down. I don't want to say it comes down to luck. Is there something we're not seeing where Veloce's play style is not counterable? I completely disagree with that, because I think if you could just demo out Casio, remove him from the game, try and nullify him, this team would absolutely crumble. But, why are teams not coming up with a plan to Veloce? That's what it feels like, isn't it, Jay? Where maybe no one's taking them seriously, so they don't think about them as a tough opponent, and that is the detriment. They are the unexpected hard opponent. It makes no sense to me. And like I said, this is why it's frustrating for me, is Veloce skate on by each and every time. And it feels like no one is taking them seriously when in the RLCS, you're there of your own back, you're there of your own hard work. You have to take everyone seriously. And Veloce just does not get that treatment.
Well, we'll see how well they'll do in their doubleheader week next week. I'm curious more than anything else of Veloce, so keep your eyes on them when they take on Singularity and Endpoint. And to close out the show, we'll talk about Vitality because they had their doubleheader week and they had wins against TSM and FC Barcelona. Obviously, the FCB game was our highlight match of the week. The TSM one, fucking easy win. I don't even bother watching TSM matches anymore just because of how fucking
name value alone. That's it these days.
Yeah, TSM got wrecked by Roundup Vitality, but the FC Barcelona result is the one that I want to zone in on because was this as expected as we hoped it would be? I can't remember what you predicted, but I think we were in the range of about 3-1, 3-2. If my sort of head is sort of thinking right. But Roundup Vitality, they had a 3-1 result where they only lost that first game. They had a couple of overtimes in that one, which is FC Barcelona at the very least having a decent confident line. But the reason why I want to zone in on this one is obviously because they are compacting sort of two big storylines: the powerhouses of Roundup Vitality and FC Barcelona having all that talent, but not enough bite to really make some of the confident results go through, and they've lost another one this week. But talking about the team composition of FC Barcelona, are they looking better now? Because, we talked about Flates coming in, whether or not he'd be whether the like-for-like sort of swap out would work out for FC Barcelona. Is it working for them now?
Barcelona is still the same place. I would argue maybe a little bit stronger, purely because they've got a little bit more rotation going on. Flakes is still in a weird place with the team. But yeah, with Barcelona, it's fine. They're middle of the table. That's fair enough for them. Ronicky had a good day, I'm going to say right now. Like I said, Flakes was very hit and miss on what he was doing, but Ronicky had a very good day, and that's what I like to see, because Ronicky's going to be the one which I think this season for me buys him on back into his worthiness to be in the RLCS, if he's a good player. Devo is also showing that maybe he's a little bit washed. It's harsh to say, but I think he's not putting up as much utility. A little bit like how it's harsh to Flame before. I think he's not putting in enough. He's very quiet. For me anyway. He's doing okay in attack these days, but the midfield he just seems to be quite absent from. But Vitality on the opposite hand, they took this whilst once again not being at full power. It seems like Vitality are just running at 80% at the moment, you know, where they're figuring stuff out. They're not entirely confident. I will say during the back end of the games, Barcelona did start really turning up and was starting to get their rotations better. But Vitality just are able to cruise it, you know? It's very weird at the moment. And this could also be that we're seeing Vitality cruise along, and they have had the easiest team so far. You know, 3-1 against Endpoint. They lost the Singularity, but then 3-1 against TSM, 3-1 against FCB. Next week they'll have ASM, and then the real teams for them start coming. So Vitality at the moment, I'm worried is the best way to put it, because by all accounts, with how this team is formed together, they should be the next world champions. You know, they brought in Alfield to replace Scrub Killa with the hopes that that is what turns them into world champions again. That is what is going to win them the Intel World Open. And so far, they don't seem to have a winning spirit about them.
No, I mean, Alpha was the guy we ranted and raved about for the past 2 seasons. We were just like, holy shit, he's the best element of FC Barcelona. Holy shit, he's the best element of TSM. In Renault Vitality, though, I can't make the same sort of arguments. You know, he's not really had the most, lights out performances. I'm not sure whether that's because they're still trying to fit him in with Fairy Peak and K-Dop. But right now, Fairy Peak is the striking element of Renault Vitality. Alpha's not had his chance to sort of step up and go fucking nuts. I think if he did, then we'd see exactly how well Renault Vitality could do. Against FC Barcelona, though, you know, I think that it was enough, obviously, you know, to get the victory out. Oh, yeah. But jumping back on your Devo point, honestly, this is the thing we've been saying for the past, like, season or so. Like, you know, we were saying once when Bluey was on the FC Barcelona side that we thought, okay, Devo's next out. You know, he's got to go at this point because this just doesn't fit in with the composition of FC Barcelona. They should get rid of him and bring somebody else up to the fold until Bluey eventually was kicked and Devo stayed in for another season. And now for FC Barcelona, he seems to be the big problem child. You know, he ranked lowest out of his teammates here in the stats line. Some of the lowest sort of like some of the lowest shots per game, some of the lowest saves per game, and all in all, just not having a great sort of time at all on FC Barcelona.
Devo actually got, on average, the most shots per game. The problem is he's not converting. For Devo, it was a lot of just pointless shots, though. That's the problem.
Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong stat. I looked at SA, not SH. See, that's the problem with Octane, right? Is that they fucking abbreviate all of the things. So it's like, you know, dyslexic, and I'm like, hey, saves per game and shots per game are right next to each other. I wonder which one is fucking which. No, you are right about that. But
no, to put that point, Devo's a better defender than he is a striker these days, and he's not been playing defense. Like you said, he's been awkward in midfield and doesn't really know how to transition up and down the pitch. And so, I don't know, it just feels very out of place at the moment and is doing enough to try and facilitate his team. But I don't know, his decision-making hasn't been the best. Like I said, a lot of the shots were nothing hits just to try and put a bit of pressure on, but teammates weren't there to back it up and, you know, follow through on that pressure to finalize. So all he's doing is hitting it off towards the defenders, and the defenders can just pick it up, which, you know, is another way of just handing the ball on over. You're losing possession.
Yeah, and the conversion for FC Barcelona is something that really fucking, you know, hurt them. As you mentioned, scored a total of 5 goals for the entire series against Renault Vitality versus, you know, if they scored 5 goals in 2 games on the other side. So, you know, they fucking had a great old time. They only managed to win within a 1-game difference of Renault Vitality for that game 1. Other than that, it was always, 1 or more for Vitality. And a couple of overtimes that FC Barcelona just couldn't hold on for. So that indicates that some of their, resilience is not quite lasting over the course of these matches. Yeah, FC Barcelona are in an awkward fucking state at the moment. I'm not sure where they go from here. They haven't got Reciprocity next week, and Renault Vitality. They've got AS Monaco next week, which actually could be another easy win for them. So I think we'll kind of take the focus off them in this whole thing, because right now Renault Vitality, they're not looking at the peak sort of form they should be at, but some of the easier teams should be no problem regardless for Renault Vitality.
Oh, Vitality have had the most ideal start to a season for them, realistically, because they've had the easiest teams, so they can just gently introduce Alpha to the side. But come around to week 5, they can't be gentle anymore, because they are literally thrown in the deep end with Reciprocity, who is like their greatest rival, you know.
Yep.
Week after that, they've got Dig. Week after that, they've got Mouse. Week after that, they've got Veloce, who we will leave that point for there. But as things go, next week, I want to see Vitality dominate ASM, you know? I want to see Vitality really come on through. They can't just, I don't know, be happy with another 3-1 win. This has got to be a 3-0, and we're talking blinding performance, because so far as well, the biggest problem for Vitality is there's not a lot of that big passing play build-up that we've seen from them in the past, which has been so beneficial. At the moment, we're seeing a lot of just solo runs downfield, and it's not effective. It's not good. It's not working in the current Rocket League, because teams very well cancel that out quite nicely. And so Vitality, I think, just need to literally take a step back and see how they were playing last season and how to incorporate that now, because that's what they need to do.
Well, I guess that swiftly leads us on to next week, so whether Renault Vitality can have their easy victories. We'll talk about all those matches that are coming up for you on the Championship Series broadcast. 6 best of 5s coming your way, with Veloce taking on Singularity to start Renault Vitality with their series against AS Monaco, and Veloce's double-header week concludes with Endpoint on the third match of the day. Reciprocity against FC Barcelona, TSM versus ASM, battle of the shit shows basically, and Dignitas versus Mousesports. Let me have a look at your highlight game for the week.
The highlight game has to be Dig versus Mouse. Like, we cannot deny that, or can we, Jay? Because it is fucking Dig going up against Mouse. But the one that we'll say is not the obvious one, for me, has to be Veloce versus Singularity. This is the first time where Singularity is not going up against a top team. And like I said, for me, this is the proof of, is Veloce actually worthy enough to try and make that run again, try and get to LAN once again? Because Singularity, this is going to be their time to turn around. Yes, I could say the same about Endpoint for that one there, but I've got a lot more faith at the moment in Singularity, just because they're so much fucking fun to watch. Singularity are great to see on pitch.
I don't understand your hype for this team, mate. It'll have to be proven here in round 4. It'll have to be proven in week 4.
It will happen. Just watch.
For me, again, I have to say Dignitas versus Mousesports. You're absolutely right. My honourable mention goes to Reciprocity versus FC Barcelona, just because obviously, you know, that could end up being, obviously with Reciprocity having a couple of difficult times, FC Barcelona also having the same situation. It will be the battle of the limp for me. But yeah, those Veloce series as well, another couple of honourable mentions. And if you're really, really morbid, then you want to watch that TSM versus ASM match and see who's going to end up bottom of the table, because the loser fucking definitely will. Right. Let's get predictions from top to bottom, Bacon. Who do you think is going to win, and by how much?
So coming in first, I think Singularity take down Veloce 3-2. Renault Vitality will be 3-1 against ASM. I did say earlier that it should be, like, they need to come in with a 3-0 week, but I don't think Vitality will do that. I think they'll just keep mediocring along, and then following that up, Veloce will take down Endpoint 3-2. I actually think here it's going to be another meh week coming out from Reciprocity, and I think Barcelona could take this 3-1, and I'm scared to say that, but that's the controversial pick of the week. ASM take down TSM, that will be 3-1, fuck TSM. Dignitas then take down Mouse in a 3-1 fashion. Mouse, I think they're going to continuously struggle, and that hurts me so much as a fan, but I'm looking at this right now. Dig just look like they've got everything under control. Mouse are still trying to figure things out.
We'll definitely have to highlight Mousesports next week. We've been very quiet about talking about them in the last couple of weeks of the show, so I definitely want to...
next week, please. I think we do a mid-season power rankings where everyone is at.
All right, then fine. We'll. I mean, to be fair though, like we could just take a look at the fucking table and go from there.
No, because like I said, I rate Singularity like 6th, but they're currently in 8th. You know, like it could be weird magical things. Like, you know, at the moment, Barcelona are 4th. Do we think Barcelona are the 4th best team? Do we think Reciprocity is currently the 3rd best team? Who knows?
We'll do that in more detail next week. I think
as well.
We'll figure it out anyway. For me, my predictions are Veloce above Singularity 3-1. Renault Vitality should be able to have ASM pretty easy 3-0. Like, that's just no fucking chance. I think Endpoint will go above Veloce, however, in that third match, 3-2. And I've got. Jesus fucking Christ. I've got SCB for Reciprocity, actually, 3-2.
You call me out and then you go for FCB as well. Fuck you.
I'm calling us both out, mate. ASM above TSM. I can't even think of a fucking scoreline to have for this one. Like, holy shit.
It's the one we don't give a shit about, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if 3-2 came up just because of how fucking, you know, just how close they are in terms of badness. I'm gonna go ASM 3-1 over TSM though, and then for Dignitas Mousesports, it'll have to be a 3-2 for me. But I don't know who to pick. This is a tough fucking cookie. I'm gonna go Dignitas just based on the fact they're undefeated. I think they'll stay that way in week 4, but. Do you disagree? Do you agree? Let us know in the Discord. Again, the Championship Series pick and prediction game currently sees our top ranker of Chewy being almost entirely contested by all of the players below him. I think there's about a point, the 3 points difference between him and the middle of the table. So certainly a lot of moving room, and you yourselves can get involved and join in on the pick and prediction game. I'm pretty sure if you play it hard enough and if you play for the remaining weeks, you could probably overtake me in Bacon because we're not that far from the bottom either. So, you know, feel free to get involved in that. Fuck you, man. You're 1 point ahead of me. Like, just give me a break.
Look, I threw a week just to give you lot a chance. It's the comeback time now.
It's bullshit. You are fucking complaining about, I've had a tough week, lads, on the internal chat. Just like, I'll come back stronger. It's like, mate, fuck you. Right. Again, Discord links, show notes, and video descriptions. You can also send us a mailbag question, which we'll answer live on an episode of RLAfterShock. Well, I say live, and honestly, this is another pre-recorded edition, and it might end up being a bit of a common theme going forward, just due to the nature of our schedules for the remainder of March. So unfortunately, I'm sorry for you video watching fans, but next week might be the last video version for a little bit of time. But for the video versions, again, find it on YouTube. The audio versions are on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, TuneIn, and most other audio platform distributions. You can go to anchor.fm/RLAfterShock to find your favorite platform and request your favorite way to listen. If you are starved of video content, though, twitch.tv/RLAfterShock, where Bacon is doing the live streamed viewing parties every Sunday for the RLCS League Play action, in case you really don't enjoy the main broadcast. So, with that being said, we're done for another week of the podcast, Bacon. I hope you've had a great time. I hope you've had some great fun times bashing all the teams and giving our thoughts on the Intel World Open such. But yeah, that's basically going to be it from us here this week. Once again, I've been the Eternal J. This has been Digital Bacon. Thank you for watching and listening. Any final words from yourself before we head out?
Just, of course, TCS is back next week, so we're excited about that. But
next week or the week after?
I'm pretty sure it's next week. It's the week after, maybe. Don't quote me on this. It is the week after.
March 9th.
March 9th. Wait too early on this one. But what I was going to say, what I'm really excited about, of course, is the Intel World Open. And what is the best team in the world? For me right now, I think Zimbabwe has got it. I mean, have you seen the Zimbabwean players? No, they're going to ninja you. Be careful.
Oh, fucking hell. We're going to get off your screens. We're going to get out of your ears. And we're going to get to see you next week for even more of the Aftershock.